Do you struggle with self-sabotage and feeling worthy of experiencing joy, pleasure, abundance, and good things in your life? Well, today I'm going to be sharing a very personal experience. This one's very personal. And we're going to talk about that self-sabotage that can happen when we don't feel worthy of good stuff coming into our lives. I'm Erica, and I want to welcome you to Powered by Joy podcast. And here we're talking about ways that we pursue more joy, experience more joy in our daily lives. And if you're someone who's been stuck, frustrated, just don't feel like you have that or need more of it in your lives, but you want to do it without sacrificing your commitment to your family and friends, then you're in the right place, my friend. Okay, so I want to tell you a little story. So this is going to be heavy on my story, but recently we returned back from a vacation and we had taken a very similar vacation the year before. So it's the same place. We went to Moab and we were there playing in our side-by-sides, which you can look it up if you don't know what those are. But anyways, so it was basically the same kind of vacation. And I was able to reflect on both experiences, and they were vastly different. Yes, they were. Surprise, surprise. And that was because of who I am. And I feel like I'm in such a different place this year. So I want to share what that was like for me. So going on vacation, this could apply to anything where perhaps you have something scheduled for yourself that you should be enjoying. Maybe it's a kid's birthday, or maybe it's your birthday and you're getting to go do something. Maybe you're getting to go get a massage or a spa day. It could be a vacation, just anything that is meant just for your joy and pleasure and for you to relax, and it's not serving the purpose of helping others, although those can sometimes happen and go together. But in this particular case, I want to talk about like how we struggle with feeling unworthy, right? So do you ever find yourself, so this is what happened to me, and I've done this more than once, where we have been on a trip or traveling, and that is like my dream, is to travel all the time, and spent many years not being able to take vacations. It wasn't in the budget. Life just didn't allow for that. And I desperately wanted to travel and have experiences and do cool things. And so I wanted that. And so here I am in a phase where I'm starting to get where I'm having those experiences, and I would go on them, and then I would get back and realize like I totally self-sabotage myself. Like there were so many times where I was like in a bad mood or stressed about something, or that didn't go the way I wanted, or that room didn't this, or whatever it was, but I was feeling some sort of way and not fully present and enjoying myself. And so I'd look back and be like, oh, like I took my miserable self on vacation to the place. And you know how they say, like, it doesn't matter where you are, there you are. Like, it doesn't matter if you think you're going to magically become a different person while you're on vacation. Guess what? If you're miserable at home, you're probably going to be miserable on vacation. So that doesn't mean I was miserable last year, but what was happening was I have been having some gut issues. And so the first couple days I was really stressed before we went out to be playing in the desert where there's a limited number of potties. And I was so wound up every morning getting ready because I was so stressed that my gut was going to be unhappy with something I ate, and that there would not be a bathroom for one of my emergency stops. And it just, the stress I felt was really enormous. I didn't know what my options were going to be. I had never done that before, so I think that added to it. But I was still just starting to figure out like what was really causing the problem. So fast forward like a couple days in, and I don't know, it was probably like the third day. It was in the morning, and I was down there, and every morning I wake up and be like, I gotta get downstairs. I gotta figure out where I'm gonna be. I gotta pack lunch. What's it gonna happen today? I gotta make sure nothing goes wrong because there's a lot of jostling and your gut's getting jiggled around. It's like, oh. So I'd be thinking all these thoughts, right? And bringing on lots of extra stress that I didn't need. And it just kind of occurred to me, I'm like, okay, well, the last couple of days, nothing's happened. And there were some bathrooms available. It wasn't like there were none. And I'm still feeling this stress. Like, why am I doing that? Like, it's all worked out and it's been okay. And I realized that it's like this default weird mode that I would go in. And so it's like it's like I have a heat-seeking missile in my mind when I'm out there doing something fun or pleasurable that's like, what's wrong with the situation? Is there something going wrong that we can notice and bitch about or be pissy? And then next thing you know, like I'm so caught up, like that didn't happen the way I wanted, and I miss seeing the arch, some arch or some animal that went by, or I maybe let slip out, maybe, something that I feel my spouse is doing that's irritating me, and maybe I'm reacting in a way to something that normally wouldn't make me think twice. But I'm on this high alert, heat seeking missile thing, like what's wrong with every situation, and getting home and reflecting and realizing, okay, so that could have been a lot more pleasant. I robbed myself of experiencing that fully. I wasn't just present because I was stuck in my head about what might happen and what had happened. So I wasn't in present. I was either future based or past. And so I just robbed myself of connecting with the people we were with, and I robbed myself of joy. Yes, I did some of that, but it could have been to a way higher level. And I just really reflected when I got home and thought, oh, I, for some reason, do not feel comfortable. And I think I'm feeling unworthy of like just enjoying myself and experiencing joy, pleasure, fun, adventure, and travel. And, I needed to explore why that was so uncomfortable. And part of it, I think, is that I know what it's like to be in a position where you can't have those things. And so there's almost like this guilt that there are people out there that aren't as blessed to have these experiences, and so somehow me sabotaging myself like makes it less bad to me or something. I don't know. I was really just kind of in my head about it, but I definitely felt like I was sabotaging myself because there was a discomfort there with the fact that I thought I wasn't worthy of having these fun experiences. And I also feel that I had a guilt around wanting more fun experiences. So like, oh, we went on vacation once already. Like, what are people going to think of us? We went and did something else fun, or, we really want to do another trip soon, and worrying about what other people think of you. And I hate admitting that I have those thoughts. That's really ewy, but it's the truth. And I think that there can be some people in our lives, and they're just in society in general, we're also present with each other because we're on social media, and you can be concerned about how other people feel about what you're doing or experiencing. And I realized that I almost felt like if I want even more and want to have more experiences and more fun and play, that it makes me ungrateful for what I have. And realizing that it doesn't make me ungrateful to want more of these joyful moments and adventures with people that I love and care about is not selfish. And it doesn't make me ungrateful for what I have, and that it doesn't kind of null that out or void it out. So I wanted to share some of that because that feels a little bit vulnerable, being like really real here about it, because I feel like all of this about my first vacation makes me sound ungrateful, which I'm totally not. I feel very blessed, but I have 6 steps I want to share with you that I think could help. It's something that I worked through this year after reflecting and going, ew, okay, I don't like that version of myself. And so I'm going to work on that. So I did. So fast forward a year later, we took the same trip and I had a very different experience, which I'm going to finish sharing with you after I share my 6 steps that I want you to be curious about and try maybe. Okay, so these are some of the steps that I reflected back and realized helped me get to a different mindset by the time I got to my next trip. And this podcast is all about finding ways to shift our mindset so that we can have different experiences and have that joy come into our lives more. So first, I have my cheat sheet here. So I'm going to be looking down. One is just realizing and acknowledging your behavior, thoughts, and emotions, like just recognizing that they're happening, acknowledging them. That step one, super simple to say, not as easy to do. But if you are in that moment on a vacation and you're like super wound up and you're like, the kids aren't this or the bed's did this, blah, 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 blah. Pause and can you acknowledge like the thoughts and emotions and feelings you're having? Okay, that's number one. Number two, I want you to trust that your thoughts and emotions and behaviors are not who you are. They don't define who you are, and they don't have to always be who you are. So it's not forever. They do not have to stay the same. So second, you can trust that you are not your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. And so that means they can change. Okay. Third would be that I want you to stop judging yourself for your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors and get curious. And we've talked about this before in other episodes about not judging others, but more importantly, not judging ourselves first with how we feel and how we're reacting to things, because that's coming from programming from way back in the day from our childhood. And we didn't program that in, our circumstances programmed that into us. Our job and responsibility is to recognize them, get curious about them, and start to look and go, why in the world do I feel this way? Why do I have that thought pattern? Why do I act this way every time I'm on vacation? Why do I act this way every time things feel good in my life? Okay, so I want you to think about like a question you could ask for me. An example would be like, why am I so uncomfortable with the thought of this trip being so fun? Or why do I feel so unworthy? Or why do I let myself go to negative emotions so much? Why am I so focused on what's wrong instead of what's right on this trip? Those would be examples. Okay, so don't judge the answers either. So ask those questions and sit and listen. This is not like a fast process, and growth as a person isn't overnight. So if you're stuck commuting in a car, that's a great time to think about it. Or in the evenings, instead of Netflixing for hours, you could think about it, asking those questions and being curious about why you behaved a certain way when you reflect back on an experience that was supposed to be fun and pleasurable. What was the reason you were in your head and that heat-seeking missile for the negative and what was going wrong? So asking those questions, and then don't judge the answers. Okay, so we're being curious. Okay, fourth is that you want to start exploring those answers. So I kind of said that just a second ago, but we want to look at why you had those responses, what your answers. So I'm not being clear. So the answers you get to why am I acting this way, we've now not judged them, but we're being curious about the answers now, and we're exploring where does that come from. And perhaps, again, referring to the inner child or our childhood, there's often, most of the time, something attached to like a wound or some healing or some pain or bad experience you had when you were a kid, or maybe you just realize the way that you process things isn't the most healthy because you weren't taught better tools. Our parents didn't know the tools, so how are they supposed to teach us the tools, right? So now when we're adults, we get to go find the tools, and podcasts and books and therapists and counselors. Those are the places we find our answers now. We are in the information age. So it's on us to make those shifts in our lives by looking and seeing, like, do I need to do some inner child work? So if you are interested in going a little further into the inner child work, I have a whole episode about that, and I'll put that in the show notes. But also, I recently did an episode, and it's actually just a meditation, a guided meditation on healing your inner child that can also open up the beginning of that journey if that's something you haven't started for yourself. So you've got some resources there. So my question to you would be, how can you show love, forgiveness, and compassion to yourself for your behaviors and choices and emotions and thoughts when they are on the negative side or angry or fearful? how can you show yourself love and compassion for that reaction you're having? And when you can start to show up and love yourself anyways, and you can show yourself compassion, and you get faster at going, oh, you get curious, you get an answer. Oh, okay, it's because XYZ happened when I was a kid. And so I tend to snap when I don't feel safe, because when I was a kid, I didn't feel safe in this situation. So now, like, I go to anger because I don't feel safe, and now I'm negative. So we get to look back and explore those things. I hope that was a good example. So the fifth one would be now practicing letting yourself explore little baby steps, baby joy experiences, instead of these big experiences like a vacation or a spa day or a track day or any of those things, going down to the micro stuff. So again, I have another episode that just came out, and that was about playing the I Spy game. And this is about finding the little joyful moments in our day every day, instead of waiting for those big momentous moments like a wedding, baby born, whatever the thing is. But starting by practicing the joy in the little stuff starts to expand our capacity to experience more and more joy and pleasure in other areas of our lives, like even on vacation. So you start to build up that like worthiness when you start to feel that joy on a regular basis. Then when the big stuff comes, you're like, oh yeah, more of this. Yeah, I've been doing this. And it's practice. It's a practice, just like meditation is a practice. Curiosity is a practice. All of it. Guess what? This life is a big practice at getting better at stuff. I don't think I've met anybody that has all this in the bag. I certainly don't. And here's a perfect example of me screwing up. I actually had 5 steps, not 6. So there you go. That's me just being real. So I wanted to then finish up my story. So fast forward a year, and we went on this similar vacation again, where we went out to Moab, and it was a completely different experience. It was completely different. Okay, so I was still having gut issues, but I was in a different place. First of all, I went there prepared. I was more educated on how to care for my physical needs. And so that was super helpful to start. And then second, this trip was shared with amazing friends, and I had also, which was uncomfortable to me, I had shared my dietary restrictions with the people we were traveling with, because we were going to be sharing and making meals together. And it was very uncomfortable for me to do, but they were so amazing and generous. And, I don't like dietary restrictions. We're coming up with a more fun name. Dietary refinement. Dietary refinement. That's what I'm doing. I'm not restricting. I'm refining what I put in for fuel. So anyways, sorry, I digressed there. Anyways, I had put myself out there for those needs, and my friends just showed up in a generous way, and it just made me feel so loved. It makes me get choked up. But it showed me that I was worthy of having that wonderful experience, and my needs were met, because the universe wants to provide when we are willing to receive. Newsflash. So, third, I was able to be present, because I wasn't hyper focused on, oh my gosh, what's going to go wrong? What could go wrong? I'm going to get stuck out there where there's nowhere to go to the bathroom. I'm going to poop my pants, whatever the horrible thing is I was thinking the year before. Like, I felt much more at ease, and just wasn't stressed about that. And I wasn't also beating myself up for not being present and being crabby before, because I was being present with everybody. And I think another big piece of it was, like, even when things weren't perfect, being around people that all were kind of the same mindset, where if things weren't quite right, we just acknowledged it, but then we moved on and let go and just continued to be present with each other and enjoy each other's company and what was happening and connecting. Okay, so the next one would be that I was just filled with gratitude this time. There was space for the gratitude, because I wasn't filled with stress, anger, frustration, fear. So there was space for this gratitude. And when it was like my heat-seeking missile was turned on what was going right and what was amazing and what was the beauty around me. And I was just overwhelmed number of times by the beauty in Moab and the nature, the rocks. I mean, it's just so gorgeous out there. And then I was surrounded by beautiful people, and I just, we had such a fun time together, and it was fun to express and connect and laugh, and just we laughed so hard I was crying. And so I can't draw, just so everybody knows. I'm not a good illustrator, so you don't want me on your team if it involves drawing anything but a stick figure. Yeah, so anyhow, it was just a gorgeous experience this time because I had that space. And so it was like, then I was just seeing it coming in everywhere. And it was such a different perspective than the first trip that we made there. And then last, I reflected when I got home, and it was like last year, it was kind of like, ooh, that was not my best self. This year, the reflection changed because I had been in that different place of gratitude and connection and love and joy and just like being so present. When I got home and reflected on it, it just like expanded even more. It was so cool because the reflection was like, just, oh man, I'm so blessed, and I want even more of this, and I want to share it with other people. And it also like restored me so that when I came back and wanted to do some writing and do more episodes, like I was just in a different place and feeling like my love tank was all filled up and my joy tank was filled up. And so that reflection changed and just almost compounded and multiplied the awesome experience that we did have. And so I think that reflection and looking back and giving even more gratitude for that, it expands it, but I think it also makes more space for even more epic experiences of joy. So I'm like, this is so fun. And it's not every day that you get to do those things, but when you do, like being in a space where you can just receive it and take it all in was such it's such a different and powerful experience than my first year, which was awesome too. But this just took it to a different level. And it was because I had shifted who I am, and I shifted my intentions. I shifted my thoughts and my approach by doing some of that work of, getting curious, stop judging myself for the emotions, getting curious about the answers of why I'm responding the way I was, and then like looking into like, is there ways to expand and experience joy more comfortably now? Because we are all worthy of sharing and experiencing and having joy in our lives and wonderful experiences. And it starts with the small stuff. It starts with getting excited when you see a butterfly pass by your head or something, but it is a practice. And so I hope that you find those steps helpful in working on self-sabotage when you're on times like vacations or in times when you're supposed to be experiencing good feelings and emotions, and you find yourself constantly going back and sabotaging that. You look back and like, oh, I did it again. Let's stop judging ourselves and start practicing compassion with ourselves so that we can have that space for the joy. I know this was a bit of a long story this time, felt a little bit rambly, but I hope that you could see if you struggle with that unworthiness and self-sabotage. I hope that you saw something in this story that I shared that helps you identify and got something with the steps I shared. And so next time you have something big coming up, or a vacation, or something that is meant for you to just enjoy, relax, I want you to remember that if you set the intention before to be aware of where your mind's at, set your intention to have permission to experience some joy, just setting that in your mind before, we're programming that brain to notice we're turning it into a heat-seeking heat-seeking missile for the good stuff, the joy and the gratitude, that in itself will help start making that shift. So remember, Set the intention before that next big thing you're going to experience that's supposed to be for your joy, pleasure, and adventure, so you don't sabotage it by planning in advance and doing some work in advance. If you have questions about like that self-sabotage and feeling unworthy and you need to dive deeper, you're more than welcome to reach out to me via my email or in the comments. And I'd be happy to help you delve into that a little bit more and see if there's somewhere you might need to do a little bit of healing or journaling, and see if you can get yourself more opened up to that capacity for more joy in your life. And I would love it if you would share and subscribe. And if you found it helpful, sharing it is the best way for people to learn more tools, and I appreciate that. So thank you for joining me again in our quest for joy.